community college in Maryland in the United States for about 15 years. Ooh, oh goodness. Alrighty, so are we doing Valheim or are we doing Satisfactory is the next question. I put them together for a reason, right? It's sort of similar games, but... So anyway, yes. Caramel, if you have a particular question, you can either drop it into chat, or if you go to Penn Center's Discord channel, let me pop that up here. If you go to Penn Center's Discord channel, there is a section for Math Forum or Math Chat, and you can put it in either of those places, and one of us will pick it up. If you want to do it like, now, then I can take a couple minute diversion. Oh, interesting. What is your current level of comfort/expertise? My advice for anybody, no matter what level you're in, is just get out and find some interesting problems and play. So the current awesome. You know what? I'm really glad to hear it. My ex gave me a book to read. And then we broke up, and I never gave it back to her because I just forgot. Is this hers? Yeah, it's hers. Zero, The Biography of a Dangerous Number by Charles Safe. Zafe? Nope. The Biography of a Dangerous Idea. It is a great read, and I found it accessible at 16. Having not been in calculus yet. It is a bit easier once you have been in calculus, but it also lists off like a whole bunch of just ideas about how zero ties into a lot of other ideas, and I'm also that guy. Who ended up getting Davasobol's Longitude, the true story of a lone genius who solved the greatest scientific problem of his time. Very long, descriptive title. And The Golden Ratio by Mario Livio, who is on Facebook. So you can actually reach out to him and talk with him. He might actually be on X as well. Oh, damn it, I did it. I did it, guys. It's Twitter. Everybody knows it's Twitter. And then we have the Matt Parker collection, which includes Humble Pie, Things to Make and Do in 4 Dimensions, and... I've got like 4 books that I still need to read. The Signal and the Noise by Nate Silver, good one, and Around the World in 80 Games by Marcus du Sautoy. So Marcus du Sautoy is also a particularly, I think, good mathematical communicator. He did a series on BBC that was called The Story of Maths. And I loved it. I actually made it the central theme of my... Yes! Yep. Yep, Ben Orlin. Okay. So if you're interested in fourth dimension stuff, there is Matt Parker's Things to Make and Do in 4 Dimensions. Here it is. No, Things to Make and Do in the 4th Dimension. So, here's that one. Your particular cover may vary depending on where you are in the world. I believe this is the U.S. cover. And also, one that I don't have, Marcus de Sotoy wrote a book called Symmetry, which discusses the nature of symmetry, the idea, and right? What's literally? Okay, that was weird. Yep, there we go. Journey into Patterns of Nature. I got this one from my library when I was back in the States. It's pretty brilliant, and it talks about the multi-dimensional nature of symmetry and how we can use like graph theory and cool other stuff like that in higher dimensions to be able to represent some of the cool things that come out of the idea of symmetry. But yeah, there's so much really cool stuff that's out there. And if you were at all interested in higher dimensional type stuff, then this is the right channel for you, for you. Because my name, right, the channel name, N Simplex Pachinko, has to do with creating a simplex, triangle, tetrahedron, etc., in n dimensions, and then playing a game of pachinko with it, i.e. you drop balls through a little chute, and then it gets, in 2 dimensions, it gets knocked through the pattern. How can you think in 4D if you or I mean, that's a good question. A lot of people have different kind of analogs to be able to do it, and there's only a few people who actually like possibly understand it. So here I have my thing on the left is a 3-dimensional representation of how you would have a 3D simplex or a 3 simplex. Here, this represents the trinomial distribution. So you could see up at the top left here, a plus b plus c all raised to the n. So we're taking 3 choices and then doing some sort of random draw on those 3 choices with a given probability, and that ends up getting us this trinomial distribution. If you 4D golf, yeah. Or 5D chess with time travel, that's an interesting one too. Yeah, so if you try and build out, like, from the 2-dimensional case at the top right, when n equals 2, we have the standard binomial distribution, and the numbers of paths that the balls could take to reach each of those locations is given by the number inside of it. In 3 dimensions, we have the item at the bottom underneath it, where it says n equals 3. It's a tetrahedron, but you have to squint a little bit. So the thing on the left is the topmost point where all of the balls would go through. That's like the first decision point, if you will. Then it bounces to one of the three directly underneath it, which are triangular. They make a triangle. They're all ones. And then if you go down one more layer, you've got a triangle that is made of 1, 2, 1 on every side. So there is one possible way for each of the balls to get to the corners. There are two possible ways for all of the balls to get to the ones in the middle. Then it falls to the next layer, which I had to make over on the right rather than underneath it again, because otherwise it gets really messy. And here we see the 1, 3, 3, 1 along each of the sides and the 6 in the middle. And then it falls to the fourth layer, and this is where we get 1, 4, 6, 4, 1 around the outsides and 12s for the 3 in the middle. So it creates this really cool thing. And if you were to extend this into 4 dimensions, i.e. A plus B plus C plus D to the N, and try to make a distribution based on that, then your first layer would end up being a single tetrahedron. Sorry, 0th layer is a single point with a 1. The next one is going to be a tetrahedron made up of 4 points. They're all connected, and they're all 1s. The next one down is another tetrahedron, but with 1, 2, 1 along every side. And it's, again, 4 vertices, which have 1s in them, and then 2s in between all of those 1s. So I can like actually draw it out or something like that at some point, but it gets maybe a little involved. So this thing, right, that contains both the 1 and triangle with, tetrahedron with 4 1s, and then another tetrahedron with 1, 2, 1 along every edge, and then 1, 3, 3, 6 along every edge, and then there's inside stuff as well. Like, all of those make one shape. I mean, yeah, it all depends on what you're going for. And I mean, it's also like, it's hard to explain this stuff. It doesn't matter what language it is. But we can try doing our best, and we'll try explaining some of it. Maybe we're going to France next month sometime, or end of the month. So that's because we're going from the first step, which is how many moves will it... No. How many different paths could we take to get to each of these individual points? So, alright guys, we're going to have to delay this for a minute. That's it, we're getting out the tablet. Okay, so if we go to Excalibur, we're not on Excalibur. Cool. Okay, so with us being on Excalibur, right, we're doing, there we go. So what we have is, if you just have a single point, right, we're doing no choices. So this is going to be like A plus B plus C plus D to the, in this case, we're doing 0. I don't know if you know the basic binomial distribution, the 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. Typically, given credit is given to Blaise Pascal. This would be called Pascal's triangle. However, the original structure in number theory was created by Liu Hui in China, and he was able to determine that if you just wanted to make like a structure that ends up having these particular numbers in it, we're just making triangles and then adding the two numbers above it to get the number below it. He didn't really have a purpose for doing this. He just thought it was an interesting number problem. And, you know, you being 17, this is a good thing to, like, just kind of work on for fun. Just see what you can do with it. So this, it was discovered by... I always forget. I keep attributing it to Al-Jayani, and I think that's wrong. Muslim mathematician. Al-Karaji. There we go. I keep getting that. So Al-Karaji, who was around in about 1029, so you know, we're talking basically 1,000 years ago, discovered that when you took a binomial like this and you raise it to the nth power, then that creates the exact triangle that we had there. Yes. So, in 2 dimensions, we get this thing, right? So this is a 2 simplex, also known as a triangle, right? We get a 3 simplex if we do a plus b plus c to the n, which is going to look like we have 1, okay. So on our 0th choice, we're saying how many ways are there to pick, and that goes to this as well, right? So all of our simplex polynomial stuff. What we're doing here is we're saying that if we wanted to, for instance, pick a certain number of a's and b's in the binomial, this is the distribution we get. Right, so this is our 1a squared, 2ab, 1b squared. If we wanted to pick between the a's and the b's, how many ways can you get? Right, how many different ways can you get a squared, ab, and b squared? Okay, that's 1 and 2 and 1. Okay, fair enough. Here, with our trinomial, we're doing the same thing. But now, the thing is that our Pascal triangle here is going to be expanded into 3 dimensions because now we have an A and a B and a C on every possible choice. You can look at this in terms of vectors. So, like, from our top point here, we have 3 different possible ways to go. From each of those, we also have 3 different possible ways to go. Right, so the number of choices keeps expanding and all that, but nonetheless, the distribution of how many balls, if there were dropped through like that structure that I showed you on the front there, with if you had all hexagonal prisms that are chutes that lead to the next level, then this is what we end up getting, and our distribution ends up being that if you make no choices, you have one possible way of doing that. You make no choice. If you make one choice, then there are 3 different possible ways to do that. Either you pick an A, or you pick a B, or you pick a C. There's no other way for them to get to those particular locations. It's just, it went from the top, it went to A to B to C. That's it. Then when we go to the next level with our 2, this now with a trinomial, right? our corners still only have one way to get to each of them. They are staying along each of the edges as we go out. But when you start moving along the faces, this is where we end up getting... You just look at the front face, right? The front face is 1, 1, 1, 1 blank 1. That looks familiar, doesn't it? Right? It's 1, 2, 1. Because if you select only one face, then it's equivalent to just doing the Pascal's triangle again. You're only doing a binomial. You've only got two choices if you have now neglected everything behind it. So every face of this 3 simplex is Pascal's triangle. All right, and then again, same thing ends up happening as we go down further and further and further. We end up with 2s here, and then on the next one, we end up with 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again here, this is our third choice. We're going to get each of the faces are going to be the same as Pascal's triangle, so 1, 3, 3, 1. And then 3, 3, 1 here, 3, 3, 1 here. Well, now we've got this extra one in the middle. What happens? Well, all of the balls could have dropped into any of the 2s from the one above it, and then each of those could drop into the center. So it's 2 of them could come here from here, 2 of them could come from here, and 2 of them could come from here. So that leaves a total of 6 possible ways to get to that center one. Right, so now if we move it up to 4 dimensions, this is where it gets really complicated. Our 0th choice is just the 1, same as it was before. Our first choice ends up being a tetrahedron where all of its vertices are 1s. Right, we come from the top, and we can choose to go to A, B, C, or D. One of those 4 underneath it. If we go to the second layer, then we end up with something that looks like this. Again, it's a tetrahedron. And again, it's each of its faces follow the same Pascal's rule. So we get 1, 2, 1 on each of those. If you're wondering, hey, wait, you just said it follows Pascal's. This doesn't follow Pascal by itself. That's fair. Oops, that's a 2. Where it follows Pascal's triangle is 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. So we're only taking one slice all the way through. And then 3 becomes an even larger tetrahedron, and after this one, there's now 1 in the middle. And then there's a tetrahedron in the middle, and then a bigger tetrahedron in the middle, and then a tetrahedron inside of that. So this is one of the things that you could do, is you can expand this even further and start looking at all sorts of patterns that exist here. My dean had been looking at, with his students, at this layer here. So you look behind the slice, so like you cut off, it's all triangles, you cut off the face that has the Pythagorean, no, not Pythagorean, has the Pascal triangle on it, you take that off. What's left underneath it? Now it's the stuff in this like salmony color. It's a 1, it's a 2, 2, it's a 3, 6, 3. Notice how similar those are to 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. Right? They're quite wildly similar. So they're just, this ends up being scaled up from the stuff underneath it. And then if we cut that face off, right, what's underneath that? Well, that starts us off with a 1 here and a 3, 3 here. And then we move on again, and there's something underneath that. And then we move on even one further, and there's a 1 here. And then underneath that face, right, it's a 1 followed by a 4, 4, I think, followed by, and it keeps going on. So they're all multiples of the original Pascal's triangle. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, 4, 6, 4, 1, etc. Oh yeah, there's a good explanation for it. So, I don't know if I want to ruin it. I think you ought to start looking into it. And if you want, I can give you some hints, or sure, I guess I could tell you the answer eventually, but there's some just really cool stuff. Alright, and the other one that I was working on was, ads. Alright. Well, looks like maybe some people are back. We're halfway through. So, 2 minutes. Oh yeah, this is research. And this is really kind of where, like, you'd want to start just being curious about stuff. So, yeah, it's 10:30 for me, so similar. There's one more. Hey, me, Machine Rex. Ten more seconds. Almost there.